You can't fight cancer on your own. You need a support group. Close family and friends can make a real difference. But you're going to need more than that. And in this chapter, we'll show you all the resources that are available to you in the community. And if you don't have a support group, what you can do. As always, the Cancer Council Helpline is the best place to start.
The words that, again, the doctors all use, it was a different language, and uneducated and unprepared for it. So fortunately the internet was available, and the Cancer Council, as soon as working days were available, I rang the Cancer Council and spoke to them about it, and they were fabulous. They sent out information. I didn't know anyone that had cancer when I was first diagnosed, so it wasn't like I could pick up and ring a friend and say, hey, listen, you know, how did you go going through it? But the Cancer Council were fantastic, and once I linked up with them and the support that they offered, I found that helped me through a lot of times. Even when I was unsure about something, I could ring up and they could help clarify it for me.
People often think supportive care, or I don't need support, you know, as in someone holding my hand. But it's a term that is across a whole range of ways that people who, when they're diagnosed with cancer, might find they want. So it's not just talking to somebody, it's actually information. So the information people need or want when they're first diagnosed, and that information can be in the form of a written brochure, it can be in the form of a DVD, it can be in the form of going onto a website and seeking information, and it can also be in the form of calling somebody like on the Cancer Helpline to have a conversation, and it can be sitting with your surgeon or your doctor and them drawing a diagram for you and explaining exactly what's happening. So information comes in a number of different formats, and that is one way that people, when they're diagnosed, feel supported, because they need information to feel that they're part of the team that's making a decision about their life and what they're going to do about this diagnosis of cancer and what's the best way forward. Virtual front door to a Cancer Council and all the support services that all of them provide is through the helpline. And that helpline doesn't mean help, I'm in crisis. It's I need some information, or I want some brochures, or I want to talk to somebody. I want to clarify a term I don't understand. I want, you know, you could call up for any number of reasons. When you call a helpline, you'll be talking to a trained oncology nurse who understands what you're going through and has a huge range of skills and knowledge about cancer.
When people call the helpline, there can be a range of issues. If it's a patient, often it's sometimes the shock of hearing that they've got a cancer, and then the next step is often they want to have an understanding. Sometimes it's why and how did I get this disease? And of course, you know, sadly there's no answer to those questions. But I think when people are first diagnosed, there's often a guilt. What have I done wrong? Why have I got this? And hopefully in speaking with us, that's something that we can dispel those myths that people feel that there's something they did that caused this. Another thing is deciphering some of the medical jargon that can be very overwhelming in the beginning when you're first diagnosed. And keeping it simple and trying for us to make all the information understandable, so that the patient can actually gather their thoughts and work out a plan of how to move forward. And that planning is something that I think the helpline can be very helpful in working out priorities for them, getting patients to write things down, keep a diary, plan their appointments, and also give them some ideas of what to ask the doctors. Because I think everyone is quite nervous about speaking to their specialist and a bit frightened about what they're going to hear, but we try and sort of give them some tips and hints about what good questions to ask, and to also empower them to ask those questions so that they can really sort of get a grasp on what's going on.
We do get quite a lot of positive calls as well, so which is nice. We get people ring up just saying how grateful they are for our service and that we've helped them out over the years. So only last week I had a lady call up and she said that she's been calling us for 10 years, and it's always nice to know that there's someone on the end of the line and she was just calling to say how well she was feeling and how well she was doing, and it was really nice to get a call like that.
The thing I'd say to people is do ring the Cancer Council and find out about support groups and support networks, because we didn't know a lot about the operation because it all happened so quickly, and we didn't realise there'd be such problems with his eating afterwards. So if you can join groups or get the help, any help that you can get, find out as much information as you can before and afterwards, and it'll be a lot easier for you.
Cancer Connect is a telephone support service, so it's offering support on a one-to-one basis. For people who are newly diagnosed, it's an opportunity to speak with somebody who's already had a diagnosis of cancer and experienced similar things that they might expect to experience or have experienced. The way the service works is that we have a pool of trained volunteers who have had a variety of different types of cancers, who are now a few years after treatment has finished, and they go through a training program with us here about how to be a volunteer and what they're able to provide as part of that service. So it's a peer support program, which means you get to speak with someone who has had a very similar experience. Of course, everyone's different, it's not going to be exactly the same, but it's easier to talk with someone who's been there and done that and know that they understand much better than anyone else how it has been for you and how it is for you. Often people use Cancer Connect at the time of diagnosis when the shock hits and it's like, what does this mean to me? How am I going to get through this? How do I get through it? Can I get through it? And to be able to talk to somebody who has gone through it really makes such a huge difference. We often also get referrals at the time of decision making about treatment. Often people are offered a variety of treatments and to make a decision is really difficult, but to talk to someone that's had to make that decision can help. It's not like someone's going to tell you what you must do. It's like, I made the decision based on these factors that are important to me, whether it's family or finance or time or religious beliefs. And this is the outcome of my choice. So with people that have a number of choices for treatment options, we can connect them to several people. So, for example, with prostate cancer, we can connect a gentleman to somebody who's had radiotherapy for that cancer and then somebody who's had surgery. So he can get both perspectives of what that treatment was like for those individuals.
The counselling service operates in a couple of ways. Either people come into the Cancer Council and we meet face to face. However, that's not always easy, and if someone's not able to travel for whatever reason, whether that be distance or physically unwell, we're able to do phone counselling, and that works really well as well. We treat that as if they were coming in, so we make a specific time when we would phone and talk for around about an hour or so. And that's a great tool to be able to use when people aren't able to physically get into the Cancer Council.
The role of a social worker in a hospital setting can be quite varied and broad because it really depends on the individual patient and their family. So we need to take into consideration, how they're coping with things individually, and it's, I guess, not set for everybody. So our role would be to support patients and families, depending on what they need support with, and that depends on, how they're coping with their diagnosis and the treatment. And also their social situation. Everybody's different, and we also need to consider their cultural and religious views and, who they are as an individual. So not everybody's going to have the same concerns when they come to see a social worker. The main role of a social worker is to provide support to patients and their families, and that includes both emotional support and counselling and also practical support and assistance, in relation to discharge planning and also helping them through the process of diagnosis and treatment.
So there are a range of different types of support groups that people can access, and some of those range from a very formal type of group where it's specific to the particular type of cancer that you might have, but there are also broader support groups where people can go along, and there are a range of different types of people with different types of cancer that are coming to that group. The main benefit that most people describe from a support group is a sense of feeling connected to other people who really understand what they're going through, but it's also a great way to share stories and practical strategies of what's worked for different people that you may not have thought of. It can also provide more information or ideas about what other information you might need to ask your doctor or your treating team, which in the initial stages you might have been too anxious or stressed to even think through what you actually want to know. So using it as a resource and a way of getting more information about what's available to you, what you might want to think about, and some practical strategies people find really helpful in terms of support groups.
Another really helpful thing about attending support groups is if you're starting this journey, people in the group that are further advanced along the track will have tips on what to do, questions to ask, things to alert your doctors to, other services or supports that might be helpful. They often will refer people to books and resources that have been helpful. So it's another whole level of information and support that you can access through support groups. To access a support group, you can get onto our website. They're all listed on our website with an ability to search for a particular type of cancer. There won't always be a support group for every type of cancer, but you can look and see. So it's either through our helpline or through the website you can find out about support groups.
The pluses of joining a support group are learning about the disease, being able to be with people that are compassionate towards your disease, with understanding, and I think just a general group of people that don't dwell on it, that have moved on, and it's good to be around people like that because it's, you know, it can be very draining mentally as well as physically, cancer, and I think to be able to go away for 2 hours a week and not think about your ills and your woes and have a bit of either learning or a bit of fun or a bit of social life, you know, that with people that understand, I think that's the main plus.
The time after treatment has finished can also be a time of some mixed emotions. People tend to have a sense of relief and a feeling that they're moving forward, but a lot of people talk about the fact that it's only when treatment finishes that they can really comprehend what they've been through. And so it's important at this time to also be aware that there's supports available should you need it. It may be through the outpatient services at the hospitals that you might see a counsellor or a psychologist, or it may be through the support groups again, or services like the Cancer Council where there are people available to talk through some of the issues that come up once your treatment has finished. Community health centres are also a good source of support, and they have a number of counsellors there that are able to assist you in managing your reactions.
I have coffee with all these ladies now, and there seem to be so many of us, and we just talk about it. And then there's some days you don't want to talk about cancer. You want to just have a normal day. I don't want to talk to anybody about it. I don't want anyone to ask me about it. And you just have a day where you just relax and do nothing.
There's so much information available, so if you want to go into more detail, contact the Cancer Council helpline or the other links on this page.